Hey everyone, Meteorologist Tuttle with you. Severe weather season is supposed to be over, and we did have a nasty group of thunderstorms that kind of formed across northern Oklahoma. They've been drifting southward throughout the afternoon and evening, and they're now working their way into the northern sides of Oklahoma City. And the history of these storms have had some hail, at least measured up around golf balls, with some threats higher than that in the official wording. Also, wind in excess of 60 and 70 miles per hour. Little sporadic spots of some damage being reported up north. So we're going to cover these storms here for a little bit as they come into the north sides of Oklahoma City, and we're going to see what kind of punch that they pack here with them. If you take a look out here at the AT's weather cam, if you look here to the northeast, this is where I'm kind of focused on here in Edmond. We're actually looking at the bottom end of that storm that's coming in from our north. And I'm looking right underneath what would be the wall cloud. So if this was a tornadic situation, this is where we would see the developing tornado. So you can see with the lightning in the background, I've got a great view of it actually right here. What I'm going to do is zoom in just a little bit. Of course, we'll have to depend upon lightning flashes to see any details because of the fact that it's dark. But you can see the structure where this wall cloud is coming into the northwest side here of Edmond. So that if, again, we were in a springtime situation, probably a little bit better wind shear, we'd be probably dealing with a tornado coming out of this thing. But we'll see what happens here. We're going to watch it for you. But right now, this is looking into North Edmond. And you can see at my thermometer at 92 degrees. There is still plenty of heat and instability coming in for this thunderstorm to feed upon. So that is what we got here right now. Here is the big picture. So looking out across the state, you can see we've got some storms up there in northwest Oklahoma, and that cluster up here in northern Oklahoma, which now is pressing into the north side of Oklahoma City. So we kind of have an area here of some decent, let's call it a pretty decent probability of some damaging wind, and also a pretty decent probability of some hail. And even then, the algorithms here triggering the probability of a tornado, believe it or not, up to around 68%. All right, so now for summertime, that's a pretty good probability, just because we normally don't see that kind of stuff around here. The hail detection has increased now to 4 inches in diameter. Now, summertime, usually you cannot get hail size that large because the atmospheric column is too warm typically. But we may have a situation that's kind of one of those freak events. So the wording on this is destructive, meaning some destructive hail and destructive windfall within this. So let's take a quick look here at the wording. And we'll put the track on where the potential for this circulation is, by the way. Cedar Valley here coming up. You got Edmond, Lake Aluma, Spencer coming around 10:33. So all for the next 30 minutes, it'll be working its way through the northern side of Oklahoma City. And then coming on down to Nakoma Park, 10:39, Choctaw, 10:41, Midwest City. And really, you can expand this over the entire metro. This is just tracking the core, the heavy part that we're concerned with right now. Like we said, the movement on this, let's do that as well. Let's see. To the, looks like, let's see, south about 33 miles per hour. The thunderstorm threat is destructive. Hail threat observed already 2.75 inches, with again the algorithms going as high as 4 inches. Locations involved: northwestern Edmond, Guthrie, Piedmont, Crescent, Cashin, Cedar Valley, Cimarron City, Navina, and Seward. All right, so this is the warning from the National Weather Service. It's a dangerous storm for Cedar Valley and Seward. Also, of course, in Edmond, we've got winds in excess of 70 miles per hour up to 80, and baseball-sized hail. Law enforcement has reported wind-driven hail shattering windows in Crescent. So flying debris, etc. So even though we may not get a tornado situation out of it, you may get some pretty destructive winds. So let's take a look. Oh, by the way, they just put a new warning out while I was reading that one. This one now updates until 10:45, which covers the entire Oklahoma City metro area. They have brought down the hail forecast size in this and the wind to golf ball size and 70 miles per hour rather than the higher threat we saw just a moment ago. But it also has several more locations in there. So again, the whole entire Oklahoma City metro. So you were saying, is it my house? Is it my area? If you live in this big polygon that you see here on the map, right here in orange, it means yes, you are, because that covers all of Oklahoma City, even down to the south side, if, of course, it holds together during that time. Okay, so let's take a look here at the data. Let's see what the velocity wind within this shows. So we're going to have to go over here to the de-alias version, and we'll look at some of the values that we pick up in here. Let's see here. So from the northwest side of Edmond, we've got about 60 to 70 miles per hour in this pocket that we're tracking. So now that wind is not nearly as excessive or as strong as it was before, so that's a good sign. Like we said, the wording on that came down quite a bit as well. Remember earlier it was up around 80 on the wording, and now it's up around 70, so that kind of jives with that. Again, I'm watching just, I'll go back here to the camera view just so you can see where the low level cloudiness is. This is where we were watching the wall cloud that moved through kind of here on the north side of Edmond. So this is where we would have had a tornadic circulation form if that would be the case. Now right now, radar-wise, in a case that is not going to happen, the algorithms do favor that particular environment within this thunderstorm, as we saw a moment ago. All right, so let's take a look here at, let's see, we're going to do some labeling for you as far as the roadways are concerned. Now this is on Waterloo Road and also on 74, and this also comes May, Pennsylvania Avenue, Western Avenue. So this will be coming on the northwest side of Edmonds. Those are the strongest winds. And let me turn this other thing off. Okay. We're also going to look at, see if we have any history here. All right, so there was one 74 mile per hour wind gust up around Marshall in Logan County. Let's see, there's a 67 mile per hour wind. Orlando, they had a barn blown over, lots of downed trees, shingles blown off houses. Over in Stillwater, they had a 61 mile per hour wind. Some big hail up around the Perry area earlier on. So there you go. So a lot of little scattered wind reports within this. Guthrie, there's a little wind report, 66 miles per hour. And there's a 68 mile per hour as well from a storm chaser around the Guthrie area. So there you go. So again, now I will tell you this, to be honest with you, these storms have weakened quite a bit in the last, let's say 20 minutes than they have in the 20 minutes prior. Because a lot of them had kind of gusted out as they were working their way into the north side of Oklahoma County. And so that was kind of what the trend was going. But because they were so strong, I was like, well, better get on there and cover this in case they don't quite completely weaken. You do see a lot of purple on the map, though, in this little region here, which indicates, obviously, quite a bit of hail potential within this. Okay, so let's take a look here at another viewpoint within this one, and we'll do some analysis. And let's take a look at what the storm looks like. I'm going to focus on, well, I guess we'll do the whole complex, but let's see here. So the hail core on our three-dimensional view, by the way, the storm itself is 60,000 feet tall. Now, 60,000 feet is a huge height for a thunderstorm. It's actually taller than that, believe it or not. And the hail core itself, let's see, that purple, that's up around 45,000 feet. That's a very significant hail core. Now, how big is that hail? Let's find out. So I've stripped away everything else. All we care about is the hail core, and that's a big, massive hail core. In other words, if you live underneath that, that's where the updraft is holding those big hail stones. Let's track this down. Let's go to 65 dBz. Okay, so now we're going to go to 70 dBz, and that's all we have left. Okay, so what this typically means is, when you're looking at the dBz values, is if you have anything from 60 to 65, it's typically up around golf ball size. All right, if you can get up to around 70, which we saw just a little blip in there, you can get some bigger stones mixed in. So ballpark figure, we should be dealing with golf ball size hail mostly within this column if it does come down in your area. All right, I just took a wind hit. So I had to pause so I can hear the wind must hit the wall of the house. 44 mile per hour wind gust on my Davis anemometer. 45. All right, so that's a pretty good wind for me. Let's see, so I'm on the northwest side of Edmond, so I had the outflow basically rush out of the bottom end of this thunderstorm here. All right, so as that air rushes out here from Piedmont to Edmond, still had a pretty good, another secondary wind hit, still right about 40 to 45. There's a 44. I haven't seen anything higher than that. It certainly sounds bigger. Yeah, there's still 41 there. Oh, there's a third one. my camera, that was close to 50. When it would hit here, this camera was shaking like crazy. So I've had about a 50 mile per hour wind gust within that line. Now it's probably going to be even stronger than that for some of you. A lot of times when these thunderstorms collapse, they do release quite a bit of wind. So we're going to have a situation where you might have some pretty damaging wind. Matter of fact, the Weather Service put out a special severe thunderstorm location here. This little new box that popped up right here is a little special warning for that. It's called an emergency severe thunderstorm warning alert. For destructive size hail, looks like an 80-mile-per-hour winds. Let's check this out. All right, so this is kind of a new feature they're playing with from the emergency broadcast systems. You may have noticed it on your phone coming up automatically. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for central Oklahoma County and north central Oklahoma and southern southwestern Logan County. Until 10:30, a severe storm located 5 miles northwest of downtown Edmond, moving southeast at 35. This is a destructive storm for Edmond. 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and baseball-sized hail. Flying debris, obviously, for those dangerous to be caught outdoors without shelter. Mobile homes will be heavily damaged. Expect considerable damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles. Extensive tree damage and power outages are likely. Locations impacted include Oklahoma City, Edmond, Midwest City, Dale City, Guthrie, Choctaw, War Acres, The Village, Spencer, Nickel Hills, Jones, Nakoma, Park, Cashin, Valley Brook, Tinker Air Force Base, Forest Park, Lake Lum, Smith Village, Seward, and Avena. Okay, let's see. So large hail, damaging winds, cloudy ground lightning, etc., etc. So it's your standard, typical stuff, but it's in a latter part of our storm season. So some people, of course, not paying a whole lot of attention because it's summertime. It's usually pretty quiet, pretty dry. But this is a case where the storm kind of got out of control here. This little cluster, I should say, this afternoon and evening. All right, so again, max hail size up around 2.75 inches and 80-mile-per-hour winds. And that is in this area here. Probability of a tornado, which we were watching earlier, we had a really good looking low appendage on that wall cloud. At that time, the probability of a tornado was, I think, 63? Or was it higher than that? So it's come down because the storm has gusted out, which means it has weakened internally, and it will now go on a slow weakening process, is usually what happens once it gusts out. But we're going to have some pretty good wind, though, as a result from that. Let's see here. Let's do this, too. Give you a visual. So there's your little visual here. Storm motion moving to the southeast about 36 miles per hour. Now, just because the warning criteria says destructive, 80-mile-per-hour winds and 2.75 inch hail does not mean everyone's going to get that. All right, that just means that's the max potential for an area somewhere within this particular polygon box. All right, so that's a pretty big area for a very small region that may occur. So just kind of heads up. And it may not even happen all the way to that magnitude, but that is what the algorithms kick out when they look at what's inside the thunderstorm. For example, like the thunderstorm is still, the algorithms still are thinking 3.25 inches hail. We have not seen that coming down as an official report from a storm spotter type vantage point. So odds are that the algorithms are overrating, overestimating how large those hail stones are. But 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts is not out of the question. Okay, so this is going to work its way here through Oklahoma City. All right, and you can see on this little fine line right here, this is our outflow boundaries. This is, in other words, coming out of the thunderstorms as they collapse. So you'll get that line of wind, and I had actually 3 surges of wind within that. Each one packed a little bit of a punch, but the most I got was about 50. Let me see. Yeah. Let me do, let's see, something else here. Let me show you. How this thing has progressed on the timeline. See how it's moved from basically north to south. And the other thing you want to look at is, see how this purple area, watch here, how it almost had a little hook appendage coming down 74. When it was coming down right here, had a really good hook, and right here it wrapped up really well. I think that's when we caught it on the camera. And then that since collapsed, and then that's all gone. So the magnitude of the severe updraft strength of the storm is gone. All right, so in other words, it should drop its load, which isn't exactly the best thing, but that does mean it won't re-intensify usually. So we're going to get a little hail as a result, a little bit of wind. All right, so let's take another look upstairs. And let's see I'll keep both of these going. Okay, the hailstone, let's see, time. Okay, so the hail core is still lofted up pretty good, around 40,000 feet. So that means this, even though the storm is weakened, this hail core still has to come down. So in other words, it can't be lofted forever. So I'm going to back this up. Okay, so we're going to put this back in time. And this is when, so we're going to go three-dimensional view. So this is back when it's west of Guthrie. And we're going to see how the hail cores have progressed. Okay, so let me go all the way back. So that's back as far as it'll go. All right, so let's go forward. All right, so the hail's still quite tall. Still hanging on up there. And then now some of that's come down, split. So one core kind of dropped off. Got a little core here that's still going to come down. You still have this hail core that's going to come down. So until this disappears from up here, in other words, the updraft that's holding it that high, until that disappears, I mean, the updraft is still prevalent. Let's take a look here at the wind. All right, so let me do this. So this is wind up around 50 knots. Okay, so in 50 knots, of course, you're going to have 50 knot winds up here at the higher elevations of the storm. This is 20,000 to 60,000 feet. All right, so you're getting the upper levels, mid and upper levels of the atmosphere to the jet stream. So 50 knots up there is not a big deal, but 50 knots down here is what can transfer down to the surface. And so we do have within that core 50 knots of wind that can come down and do some straight line wind damage. So it's good to see a vertical column as what's happening. This is how the Weather Service, by the way, analyzes severe storms to issue the warnings. They don't just look at a flat plane like we're doing. This is called a PPI display, plan position indicator. And what it is most people use this because it's a way to visualize a two-dimensional plane of storms, but it's a slice of the very lowest level of the atmosphere. But you have to see all the levels to give you a big picture as far as what's inside the storm, as far as hail, wind, mesocyclone strength, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times it's for tracking. We use this because it's what's happening at ground level to surface. So for example, there's our little pink area, ground level to surface, and that is where we're getting a little bit of hail within this. So let's do a street for that. So let's come back over here to this map. So we'll show you that's right around 74 and Waterloo Road, which is really when we started this broadcast about where we were for the strongest part of the storms. It hasn't moved much as far as the heavy core goes. Let's see, it does kick east to May and Penn and then Western. Still a little core up here. Let's see, now let's move south, a new update. Let's see here, time is that 12, yeah, okay. Let's see, we've got, so pretty much east and west of Portland or 74 here in northwest Edmond is where the biggest hail core is going to be. Right now that's going to be north of, let's zoom in. So that's 192nd. So that's right around 206th and 220th. So that's where the hail core is going to be there right now. So that'll probably move down this direction. This little guy, what's left of it, will move down in this direction. So if you're in this little red area, pea-size hail, maybe. Maybe you'll get a dime-size hail thrown in there, or nickel. That's about it. The algorithms at most right now are down to only golf ball size, or actually just under, as far as hailstones. So that indicates that severity continues to come down. So that's good. So now we're really going to focus on the wind because I think that'll be the main focus. So let's go here for the rest of Edmond. So wherever you see all this blue stuff, so this is all the winds up around 60, 70 miles per hour, 75. So pretty much on the north side of Edmond, the central Edmond, pretty much right along 77. That's where you're getting the most of the wind. Let's do this one. Let's remove any de-aliasing. Biggest I've got 77 miles per hour, and this is being measured just a few hundred feet off the ground. So this should be making its way to the surface, by the way. And that's some damaging wind. So that'll knock down some small tree limbs, some small trees, a lot of leaves. It's going to probably do a little bit of minor shingle damage within that. We're also going to see maybe some broken windows if you can get some debris blowing with that wind into the window, or some small hail with it. Wind-driven hail can do some damage, even if it's very, very small. Here's what that looks like. I mean, it's just torrential downpours. This is again a view of my weather came on the roof. So obviously very torrential rainfall coming out with that heavy wind and the rain, and not very good on the visibility side. So if you're trying to drive in this, not exactly ideal. So back here to the radar view, again, this is looking at the velocity, which is the wind filled in the atmosphere. East of Edmond, it's not really a problem. I mean, this is standard, typical thunderstorm. It's not a big deal. Winds out here 30, 40, maybe as high as 50 miles per hour from Wellston to Luther to Lake Arcadia. Right now, really the big pocket of concern, and really the only concern as far as wind is for this storm, is the one that's right now over North Edmond, here along 77 and Memorial, stretching northward, where you got winds still up around 75. There's 78 miles per hour, so that's pretty significant. We can do a quick check just to see on the height. So we're up around 1,300 feet. For this elevation, this is down around 1,200 feet, 1,300 feet. So I thought it was in the upper hundreds of feet, but it looks like it's just above 1,000 feet. So we will have to detect a little bit as far as the values, maybe as much as 10% for friction, but it's pretty close. All right, let's take a look at some other data here. And let's see. The hail's just really dropped off. We can go back and look again upstairs. We kind of focused into wind just because we're going to have such strong winds within this. Let's see. And it's dropping most of its wind now. This is about the strongest this wind has been, this little darkened blue area. So we're going to go back here to this guy. All right, let's turn that off. All right, so still up close to 80 miles per hour. Roadways on this is right around East Memorial Road. Strongest winds in Bryant and Eastern Avenue. That's where that core is. So if you live here, east side of Edmond, that is where you're getting the strongest winds. They've dropped off quite a bit now. I mean, they're still over 60 plus north and west of that area, but this is definitely where the ones that could get up to 80 miles per hour. So what happens in summertime like this is obviously, when you get up to 100 degrees for the day and you have any type of humidity, you just supercharge the atmosphere already. And because the sun doesn't set till 9 o'clock, obviously you're looking at a period where you've had prolonged daytime heating. And so storms that linger here past 9 o'clock still have a lot of juice left in the atmosphere to feed off of. So if they happen to get an environment where you can get storms, and today, if you read my blog on Sunday, your forecast for today was for storms in the area, so that is what they have to work with, and they'll eventually continue to wind down here. There's a lag from the time the sun sets in the summertime to when they do die off. It's usually about an hour. In this particular case, it's going to be about an hour right now, and they are dying out, but right now they're dropping their load as far as the strongest winds are concerned, which is usually what happens, because what comes up must come down. You can't hold everything aloft forever, and so that's how you end up with the damaging winds. Okay, so they spread out as far as that core. We were trying to track a core that's basically within a 1 square mile, and now it's spread out over a 1, 2, 3, about a 4 mile area, and it is encompassing a path that's about mostly 70, like under 70 to about 75 miles per hour. And trust me, that's still some good wind. That's still some damaging wind. All right, so we're talking about the turnpike bounded between 35 and the Broadway extension. Let's see here. And we talked about Eastern. If you live north of Hefner Road, if you live on 122nd, all right, you live on Coltrane, Bryant, you guys are all going to see these strong winds. Again, very low visibility, so it's kind of what it looks like if you're out there trying to drive around in it. It's just not a very good, easy view. Okay, Let's see. While I'm focused on that, let me see if there was any other areas that picked up that in strength. This little guy in Wellston, all right, just west of you on 66 on Potawatomi Road. It's about 60, looks like. Yeah, close to 60, the little blue area. So that's picked up a little bit from what it was before. Your most was 50 in that area. So you County Line Road in 66, just north of the Turnpike, west of Wellston. There's a little patch there, wind up around 60. But we still have this large area of 60 to 70 over north side of Edmond, now moving into the north side of Oklahoma City, south of the Turnpike. Right now bounded by Hefner. So if you live on Hefner between 35 and 77 is around your area and to the north. Let's do a real quick look upstairs. I think, let me switch this over. Yeah, so we've lost all the purple on the map. And if we look aloft, look out, we've lost a lot of our hail cores. All right, we have just 2, 3 little guys left. See, there's our, remember our big one back here? And then we do this, and we've just about gotten rid of most of it. And if I look at, let's do this, KDP, let me go back in time. All right, so most of this, believe it or not, was a lot of smaller hail that was very water coated. All right, so what that means is that the algorithms can get tricked. They can think that the hail size is very large when they have this hydrophobic coating on the hailstone, and it can kick back an erroneous value of hail size. And it looks like that's what happened, because what I see here is a 1/2 inch size. There's a 1/4 inch size, 0.25, 0.25. And on this KDP value from dual pole, when it's colored like this, it just means it's melting hail. So in other words, the hail, because it's so warm, yeah, it may have been quite larger up aloft, but as it's come down, it's melting on the way down and becoming coated in water, and it's becoming basically just a lot of small hail. So it's not even an issue anymore. So that's good. So we're just now dealing with the wind. So I know the warning criteria had talked about hail, but we can scratch that. It's gone. Now we're talking about still damaging wind. There's a couple of markers here. Some power poles broken, 3-inch tree limbs down. Let's see. That's on Northwest. Let's go closer in this one. That's a Northwestern Avenue and Northwest 164th. All right, so Northwest 164th and Western is where that report is. That's actually right down the street from a power station. So, all right, so now I've still got power in my area. UPS has behaved. That was good. I replaced that one that was giving me trouble during the spring. That was frustrating. I replaced the battery and everything. So, all right, so we're good to go. And the wind's still going. These little blue areas, again, these are upper winds around 70, close to 80. So they're still hanging in there. Let's see here. So you put this in motion. You see this little cluster of wind doing this. See, it's not that large. And it'll be down this area too. So if you're wondering where is it going next, well, it's going on the east side of Oklahoma City. Pretty much over to Choctaw, well, just west of Choctaw. East side, Midwest City, Del City. So let's do a storm track. Let's just go ahead and just do that rather than just telling you about it. We'll just show you. This little patch here. Here we go. So we got, let's see, well, right now, let's see, Forest Park next at 10:29. Spencer, 10:30. Midwest City, 10:35. And Pink at 11:08. Now this will clip east side of Moore and east side of Valley Brook. Otherwise, basically bypassing most of you. And it'll head toward Twin Lakes down here, and there's Pink and etc. So that's where this particular cluster of damaging wind is going. Let's see what the latest on the wording on this. This is an update. Nope, that's an old update. They haven't changed the wording in the box yet. Usually the boxes when they issue them are good for about 30 minutes or more. And then they'll update it once like this cluster gets down to this area. Then they'll create a new polygon. And then they'll give new updates in that one. But that was the latest information that we had when this was first issued. Okay, so this blue area now bounded down here to 44, up 35, bounded by 77, and then the Turnpike. All right, so it's this little batch here And these values still up around 70, 74, 76. So about, otherwise it's 60, all right? So not everybody's gonna get the 70s. A lot of 60s within this. But if it's blue, it's 60 plus. And if it's like very light blue, right? Almost like turquoise. And then when it gets into the blue colors, and then it gets up to 70s. When it gets to like the brighter or darker blue, then it's up to 80. If it's like royal blue, it's like 80, 90. All right, let's see here. All right, so that is really coming down. Okay, well, let's see, what do I have here for you? Good news is hail is pretty much not a problem anymore. Bad news, I guess, you still have this little pocket of damaging wind. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles wide. Again, the newest data had come in, still showing winds up around 70. Or the 76. There we go, some new update. So now the strongest winds on the split from 35 to 44 here on the southeast side of Oklahoma City. Let's see here. Let's go to, let's see what I got. 75 strongest. Yep. All right, let's do some roadways for you. So it's between Coltrane and Eastern and Wilshire and Northeast 63rd. So that is where bounded box of your strongest winds. If you live in that region, you have the winds that the rest of us do not. Outside of that, you've got 60-mile-per-hour winds around Kelly and Main Street, Eastern, around the Britton area. So basically from Britton Road to Wilshire to 63rd, so now about Northeast 50th. Oh, look at that. See what that is? Remember the blues I told you about? Let's see what they look like. 86 and 90. All right, so that's the strongest winds we have seen thus far. So now you have 90-mile-per-hour winds at Northeast 63rd and Bryant. And that's just off the highway here. So if there was a semi, all right, traveling southbound, for example, and that wind crossed over at the right time, perpendicular, it could have rolled the semi. But right now, the strongest wind is now east of that, so it had been a quick occurrence. All right, so Lum Valley Drive, 63rd, Lake Alum Drive, North Bryant Avenue. All of you guys right now are experiencing these winds that are up around 90 miles per hour. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so see where these winds are coming from? This is coming down from 15,000 feet. So that's what this column of air is, what's coming down the surface. It's called a downdraft. So this is a damaging wind event, and all these little values in here where you see dark blue, that's up around 90 miles per hour. And that's all up to 15,000 feet that's coming down to the surface. This is a vertical slice in the atmosphere, all right? So if I were to look up and down, a little bit different from our three-dimensional view. Okay. Forest Park. You guys have a little spot here of some blue on the map. So let's see, these stronger winds are kind of spreading outwards, it looks like. All right, so let's go spread this out a little bit. All right, that's what we got for you down here. Yep, close to 80. All right, and that is at Schroeder Avenue and Coltrane and Northeast 33rd and Northeast 30th. All right, that's our leading edge of this damaging wind deal. Now, these stronger winds that were up here have calmed down a bit. They've dropped from 80 to 90, and it looks like now they're back into the 70 plus range. Let's see. There's 80, 77. So no more 90s. That's good. Let's see here. Just west of Coltrane now, just south of Northeast 63rd. Remember, we're on the east side of Oklahoma City. All right, so we're heading into the Midwest City area. Coming up the west. This is on the west side of Spencer. Coming right down I-35. This is the strongest batch of winds. These guys up here we looked at, they're still hanging in there around 60 south of Luther. Over here, Northeast 150th, Harrow Road, Northeast 164th, Memorial Road. So a little batch of wind here. It's not going to do a whole lot. 60-mile-per-hour winds doesn't do much damage. A lot of small tree limbs and some leaves. That's about it, usually, unless you just have a weak shelter or storage or something. It's the winds up here. Once they get 70 to 80, that's when you start to have some problems. And especially if you have anything up to around 90, that's when you really have problems. So do me a favor on the platform that you're on. Just hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit all the buttons, hit the like button. That way the algorithms know that the information that you're watching is valuable, and it will keep it in the queue for others to see. It helps to share the content, and that way everybody can get updated. All right, on the next, west of 35, we've had a little increase out here on the west side from MLK to Kelly. All right, this includes Prospect. So let's see, south of Northeast 50th and all the way down to Northeast 30th. So from 50th to 30th out here in Prospect and MLK, you've got some winds now up around 70 to 80. You still have 80-mile-per-hour winds along I-35 around Bryant and Northeast 36th and out toward Forest Park, about 70. You get east of there, Coltrane about 70 to 80. Same thing from, let's see, what was that, Bartell, North Bartell Road. This is all just north of 62. By the way, thank you for the stars on Facebook tonight. Appreciate you guys doing that. Let's see here. So you will notice a trend. I don't usually do a lot of broadcasts during the summer for good reasons. It's hot, dry, boring. Do you really need to see my face every day when it's hot, dry, and boring? I don't even need to see my face that often. So I like to kind of calm down and check out a little bit. And every now and then I got to check back in. It's one of those deals, unfortunately. Okay, let's see. So south Forest Park, just south of 62, on North Bryant and Northeast 10th Street and Sooner Road, kind of a little bounded region there. We're back up to winds between 70 to 80 miles per hour, looks like, just under. Again, that's the most I've seen is upper 70s in this little blue area. That's the strongest batch of winds within this. Kind of rolling right down 35, honestly. Smith Village, Del City, Midwest City, you guys are next in line. It's going to kind of bypass, the core of downtown Oklahoma City. All right, up here in northeastern areas, let's see, back up toward Luther and Jones. You stay these little pocketed areas that are up around 60. It's kind of just hit and miss in that whole area. Let's see, some of these roadways, you've got Luther, Peebly Road, East Memorial, 122nd, Britton, Wilshire. So a little bit of wind there. You know, it's a good thing that this happened today and not yesterday, because the National Weather Service had a widespread data outage that affected just about everything. I don't know what happened. I don't know the backstory. I think a fiber line got cut, maybe, or they got hacked. I don't know what happened. I didn't look into it deeply because it was dry and sunny, and I thought, they'll fix it, whatever it is. But it took them more than 24 hours to get things running again. And it looks like they just got it up today because this morning it was still down. So there were some issues there. So I don't know all the backstory. I just know there was some trouble getting data out. So that's a good thing they got it all working again, or wouldn't even be able to cover any of this stuff with warnings or watches or radar, nothing. I mean, it was a bad data outage. Okay, so they did an update on the track here. Let's see here. Let's go to where it is currently, to where it's headed. So Forest Park, of course, now. Let's see. We got Smith Village, Dell City, Valley Brook, Moore. Let's see. We've got Hall Park at 11:14, Norman about 11:16, if it's still holding together that long. And you got Goolsby and Noble about 11:30. Now remember, the storm is weakening little by little. So at some point, it's going to run out of momentum, and what will happen is the little blue area will kind of spread out larger than the 5 miles. All right, it won't be in the core so much anymore. It'll spread out more, and then the blue area will just turn to like this green with little pockets of a little light, tiny, whitish blue in there. When that happens, it's just 50 to maybe 60 miles per hour, and the event's done. It's over, and it's trending that way pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens in the next 10 minutes or so. All right, let's look at reflectivity data. Now, as far as other storms are concerned, still some regeneration. I know Ponca City. I know you guys up there are going, how come you weren't covering us earlier? Well, I know, because I wasn't planning on it, and I was going about my day doing my normal things, and I saw it. I made a post on my social media that was a nasty storm. You guys did get some nasty wind up there and some hail. If you look up here, let's see, what were your comments? Let's see, you had 1.5-inch hail, a lot of hail reports up here, but I know there was some wind in that region up there. But the storms, they kept coming, so here we are. All right, let's do a little replay. Let's see how this thing's going. So you can faintly see this little line right here? That's the outflow boundary, all right, from the whole cluster itself. Now, if you'll notice, this part of the storm has caught up with the boundary and looks like maybe back on top of it. Now, that could give it new life. We'll see. Let me see what happens. Let me do a little zoom in here. Let me see what's going on. Oh, I don't want that. Let's go over here. Where's my boundary here? Yeah, that one actually kind of, the boundary kind of lost its steam and it kind of ran back over it. So usually what that means, it was if we still had an environment for growth, then it would give that storm an opportunity to regenerate with a new updraft, a new storm cell, and allow it to keep going. We're going to have to wait and see, because it's been on a declining trend even despite that little subtle change in the mesoscale details. So we'll see what happens here. Let me do a... matter of fact, let me go upstairs again. Yeah, so one of the indications are the cores. If it was new growth, new strength, new updraft, we get better cores that would show back up in the data. Where are we at? 60? Yeah. And I'm not seeing any growth there. So let's go here. The height of the storm as well. We're getting too close in the radar to hit the top of the storm. So here's the, in this view, this is where the radar is located, and it's shooting its beam in this area, okay, at the storm. But as it tilts up, there's a cone of silence where you can't see above the radar. So, for example, let's clear this. See if I can show it this way. Yeah, you can barely kind of make it out. Matter of fact, let me if I do this, maybe you can see it better. What am I doing? Yeah, this is better. All right, this is the velocity data. Okay, so what you're looking at, again, the center of the storm, or the center of the radar rather. All right, as I tilt up, if you notice, the radar beam is shooting up, right? So you can see how the radar beam tilts up, but that is in like a birdbath shape, so you can't see above the radar. That's called the cone of silence because the storm's too close to it. The beam of the radar, so it's a dish that goes around like this, okay, and it tilts up and it tilts up, but it can only tilt up so high, and it's usually about 60 degrees elevation. All right, so this is 0 elevation, it tilts up like to 60, and it comes back down to 0. To go bird bath, you have to go 90 degrees. Well, you can't do that. All right, you're going to space. So we stop it usually right around 60, which means you can't see any data above this little 69 degree wedge. So if you have a storm that comes in too close, you miss that data. So that's the reason why you can't see that in the view. Anyway, it's still a pretty good looking thunderstorm though. Okay, so let's see what we got here for you. Let's check out the winds, because that's really the only thing left to speak of. And we can do it this way. Let's turn that over to this, and then we'll position it. All right, so if you notice, we still have wind. That's up around 20,000 feet. All right, so this core of wind still has to come down, and this core of wind is a little blue area. The max is at 82 miles per hour. So you still have 70 to 80 mile per hour winds up around 20,000 feet. That has to still drop down to the surface. So there's still some wind to go, which means it's still going to be a little longer. But surface-wise, still only got about 75 as the peak. So let's show you that. Man, I went out there and watered some plants for a little bit. I jinxed it. You know, you guys wash your car to make it rain. I washed the plants because the wife told me to. It's okay. I got 2 drinks tonight. All right, Douglas. So Douglas Boulevard and Southeast 15th Street and Reno Avenue to Post Road. That is our strongest wind event. Little secondary area between East Kerr and Depot. There we go. Now remember those winds I showed you aloft? Looks like some of them have now come to the ground right here. All right, so this is a big change, just like that. 91 miles per hour. So that's the strongest winds that we have so far for this event here in Oklahoma City. It's been recorded on radar anyways. And that is occurring at Southeast 29th. And let's see. What else we got? Salina Drive, Southeast 23rd, Railroad, South Coburn Road. This is all just north of 40 on the southeast side of town. This is east of Douglas. This is west of Westminster. It's Post Road. So South Post Road. All right, and we had those other little patch of wind up here. Don't want to forget about you guys. Still up around 60. Triple X Road, Wilshire, Peebly. Nothing beyond that. Still doable. Choctaw's coming in with it. 36th Street. So some good wind there, but not quite destructive as this little patch here is. All right, they've come back down. It's just little drops. It's there and then poof, comes and goes in waves, because now we're back down in 83 and 78 miles per hour. And just kind of give you an idea, earlier we were measuring, where the wind speeds were aloft. So this is around 350 feet off the ground. All right, so you don't lose any. You don't lose any of the wind speeds at that short distance of AGL. All right, so you still got about 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. This little spot. So literally, this is 1 mile. So we're talking about a 1 square mile area of damaging winds from this particular thunderstorm. So if you live on Southeast 49th Street, Westminster, Kennington, who else we got? Southeast 54th, Southeast 55th, Blackjack Ridge Road. You're going to get these damaging winds in your neighborhood. So again, you might lose some small trees, might lose a few shingles. That's what happens when you have 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. That's usually kind of what you get is some tree branches, very tiny trees, maybe a few shingles. If you get up to 90, obviously that's more than that, because we're kind of getting into the small tornado category, strength of winds. Mobile home, obviously, with a 90 mile per hour wind is not a good situation. It can roll it. All right, so that is, let's see. The only game in town, as far as anything that's potentially destructive, a little bitty area. So this is coming in Tinker, by the way. Let's see here. Let's do this. Right over Tinker, I think. Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. New data. And this one. So all these little blue areas, let me make sure that these are the same. So the color scale on this radar is a little different than on my other programs, and I don't like it because I need to change or alter the table a little bit. It's about 10 miles per hour off of my color for me to use. So in other words, this would normally be 90 and it's 80, but regardless, it's still 80 mile per hour winds where you see these blues. All right, so that's over Douglas. It's over John Conrad Golf Course, for example, Village Oaks Shopping Center. This is down here on Douglas and 15th Street, Southeast 15th Street. Stretches east from there. Avery, Post Road. We got Westminster again. So that's where you have your strongest winds, that little core. And then you have some other strong winds. Let's see, down here from the split. So coming on 240 Westminster, we got is that Fields, South Fields Road, and Donna Lane. Oh, new data came in again. Moving south now, 240 on Southeast 74th Street, and Anderson Road and Bryant Road, or no, that's South Lennon Road. I don't like this radar program as much with the naming convention. It's just too it's too difficult to see. Let's see. All right, so they've got some garbage on this data, but that is where all the big winds are. So let's flip over to my other guy here. So it's probably getting contaminated with some of the ground clutter pattern. So the aliasing is not working properly, because otherwise it would show some these winds. I mean, it's got 135. That's not real. But there is some. It's like the radar itself has a ground clutter map, and so the algorithms try to detect these little structures and tries to remove them, and then when storms and rain happens back over them, then it has to struggle to find out which is real, which is fake, because it normally removes the fake echoes, and now it's got to put real echoes in, and it now doesn't know what to do with it, so sometimes it puts in bad data. Let's see, for this map here, I back up to around 80 to 90 mile per hour winds in that same area we talked about. So these echoes are good. I like this product. Kind of removes those, so I don't have to worry about that so much. That's nice. Let me go aloft. So if I go aloft, meaning higher in elevation, up to around 1,000 feet, I got a lot of 80 to 90 mile per hour winds. So there's still more wind to come down in that range. So maybe this is the last hurrah. Fingers crossed, right? Okay. Let's go back over here. Let's put that on the map for you. Where is my deal here? Okay, 10, 50. All right, well, that big round of wind is gone. Boy, it just comes and goes. Okay, so let's go Choctaw, by the way. Y'all's winds are picking up still. These blue areas up around 60 to 65. So they've come up a little bit more. See, I think I might even see a 68 in there. Yeah, there's some upper 60s now. So that's different than what it was just 5 minutes ago. So you might have a secondary pool of wind developing closer to 70 miles per hour around Choctaw, which before your winds are behaving all in this area, but looks like now maybe they're getting out of control. So let's do that. Let's back up. Let's come over here. There's 60, 61, 65, 68. All right, so that's Triple X, Indian Meridian Road, North McDonald Road, Choctaw Road, Hennessy Road, all along Highway 62, north to 36, and kind of cuts off about Northeast 50th as far as the strongest winds go. There's another little pocket there around 63rd and Peebly. Is that Peebly? Give me Peebly. Give me the road. You can do it. Peebly. I saw it in there. Luther Road and Britain Road. Little pockets of wind there as well. All right, so back here on the east side at the split, 240 and 40, east of Tinker. Westminster to Anderson to Hiwassee. All these areas here, all around 60 to 70 for the most part. Let me see if I can find anything higher. There's a 75. There's a 75. Oh, new data here. All right, there's 84. So it's just dropping just cores of wind. And then it hits down. Of course, it hits the ground. When it hits the ground, obviously wind can't go through the ground, so it just kind of spreads out and it's done. Then you have another core that comes down, and it spreads out, and it's done. All right, so these are 80 mile per hour winds. Then, on occasion, we'll see a peak of 90. Same area, though. So if you live pretty much on the split from 40 and 240 in that area, this is the region for all the pockets of damaging wind that come and go. All right, so that is our strongest wind right here at I-40 in Westminster, and the value I had is up about 85. 89, there's an 89 there. Let's see, is this an update on this? Probably not, we'll see. Yeah, this one, last update at 10:31. For the severe thunderstorm warning expires at 11 with wind gust max potential to around 80 miles per hour. The hail size, I can ignore that. We haven't had any hail of any consequence in a long time. Let's see, we've got Oklahoma City, of course, Northern Moore, and Norman, Midwest City, Del City, Choctaw, Spencer, Nakoma Park, Valley Brook, Stella, Tinker, Stanley Draper Lake, Forest Park, and Smith Village. That's just basically for the whole storm itself. What we've been really focused on is just that little small 1 to 2 mile region for core of the damaging winds. But it's spread out lately in kind of a little bit of a circle. Now that circle is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles wide. And within that, we get these little random areas here, like this, where you just get wind that just rushes down the surface. And these values here, I'm actually getting some hail now that I've stopped talking about it. I can hear it in my house. 90 mile per hour winds. Let me go aloft upstairs. So this is the tilt to loft, 88. If I go one more up, 90. One more up from that, 90. So this is, I'm going up in height. In other words, I went from the surface to around 1,200 feet. So the winds are not abating just yet. I'm going to go back down the surface tilt, which is this guy here. So what's causing the hail? Let me see what that actually looks like on radar. Oh, no wonder. I have a hail core coming in. What does this little guy say? Wind damage, tree broke, power lines. Oh, so this guy here has a hail core of 2 inches. So that means we've had a new cell go up. So this guy doesn't have the hail. It's a new teeny tiny little baby storm up here. Take a look at that one. Here on the village, coming into the village, the west side of Edmond. So there's the little hail core right here. See them? There's a couple of them. Little pink. So there you go. So that's what's coming down at my house. So it's a new updraft, and that new updraft is skinny, and it's pulling those hailstones up and growing them up here to 30,000 feet. And some of them are coming down. As long as it stays small, I don't care. Nobody wants that big hail. Okay, let's go back down here. Let's go look at the wind. So the wind is mostly below 10,000 feet. All right, that means this thing's probably almost done. Fingers crossed, right? Okay, that means, it could also mean it's dropping its final load right here. That's why we're getting these darker blue areas. So let's go measure that. Okay, so again, we're up around 85 to near 90 mile per hour winds. And we are at Hiwassee, Anderson, just north of Southeast 89th and just south of 74th. So this is our bounded box of the worst winds at this moment in time. I mean, it's spread out anywhere in this area. You get these hit and miss regions, but right now that's where that is. All right, so the Weather Service will issue another one of those unique, different, what they call a WEA trigger warning, which is where your cell phone goes off. You know how you have the Amber Alerts, that kind of stuff? That's what it's a, I guess it's a new tool in their arsenal that they started using, or just now started, because I haven't experienced that before. And they're doing it for excessive criteria. So in other words, it looks like they have a minimum, and I need to look this up, but it looks like they have a minimum threshold of 80 miles per hour, because that ends up being more destructive, right? Which can break some windows, you know, if you have flying debris and hail, that kind of thing. And they're going to issue a flash flood warning for Edmond, War Acres, the village, and through downtown Oklahoma City. My NOAA weather radio just went off for that. I don't know if you heard it in the background. So I've got a NOAA weather radio too. I use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. Yeah, it's free, Apple, Google Play, but I'll have backups and backups, right? Because you always need to have redundancy built in case there's there's always gonna be a failure point somewhere. It could be your cell phone tower, it could be your Wi-Fi, it could be your battery, it could be you lost your phone. But so I've got a NOAA weather radio. It might be a heavy sleeper, so that thing went off for a flash flood warning. I have it set to only go off, I believe it is, for tornadoes, flash flood warning. I might have it go off for severe. I may not. I'm not sure. But you can configure them, and I have a link in all my broadcasts on Facebook where you can go to get the one that I have on Amazon. So if you're ever curious, you can get one of those. They're cheap, like $30, and they work great. Okay, so this one is coming in right toward the radar. The winds have come down a little bit on this last scan. Of course, we know it doesn't seem to say much. It pulses up and down, 60 to 70, right? But if you also remember, we looked upstairs aloft, and a lot of those winds had already reached the surface. So this might be it, as far as the destructive winds are concerned. All right, now this area here, let me back this out. Hiwassee, Southeast 89th, Anderson, still those same regions. Southeast 104th. All right, so let's see here. North of there, those guys are all behaving back up to 50 to maybe 60. So that Choctaw stuff that was kind of elevated there for a while, that was the most it was going to do, looks like. Okay. Let's try something else here. Power just went out at Southeast 74th, Anderson. And power is out, looks like, at Mid-Dell. Dell City's without power. I like it when you guys put in the comment section your comments about power outages or hail or wind damage, because it helps everybody else out. Because I can't always see everything.
There's 43,000 people without power right now.
I see that. OG&E. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, let's go see something. Let's see. Go to my website, aarontuttle.com. It pulls up the OG&E map here. So it says there 43,000. Good job there, Mrs. Tuttle. Thanks for passing along the chat info. So let's go over here. So most of them are anchored here in the metro, looks like, and they're all mostly anchored over the east side. Well, because guess what? That's where we picked up those winds of 80 to 90 miles per hour, so that makes sense, right? Okay. Now some other power outages up in northern Oklahoma, hit and miss, not a whole lot. So the bulk of these are right here to the metro from, looks like, Jones, Tacoma Park, Choctaw, Midwest City, Dell City, Tinker. There's on the Nichols Hills, there's 30,000 around that area. So anyway, you can get this information, a lot of other stuff on my website, aarontuttle.com, anytime. All right, let's go back to the radar here. All right, so the winds have blown right through the radar. In other words, measured at ground level. They're at 70 at most. They're around 70 miles per hour. Okay, so let's see this little pink area. Let's go measure that one. 70. All right, so they've come down, because remember they were at peak about 90. It's 20 miles per hour. So this is ground level. In other words, this isn't up in the sky. This is right at the surface. So that does mean that this storm has weakened quite considerably. So that's good. That was what the trend was going anyway, so it looks like that trend has continued. Okay, let's do a little update. Let's see, pink 1136 for what's left of these winds. Severe thunderstorm warning goes until 11:45, moving southeast now at 21 miles per hour. They still have a little bit of hail in there, but I don't think I'm seeing any reports lately. Wind gust max of 80. Southeastern Oklahoma City, eastern Norman, Choctaw, Pink, Stanley Draper Lake, Stella, Lake Thunderbird, and Little Axe. But again, we're just tracking tonight. This core of winds was going right on top of the radar. So the reason why there's no radar right here is the it's called the near field of the radar, where it can't form the beam, and there's a limitation of the hardware. It's called an STC, stability time, and it has to get beyond a certain distance so we can start to measure and bring in coherence to the electromagnetic pulse that sends out from the radar to come back and get measured for the raindrops. So every radar has a limit. So that's why when you see a radar, the data you see is always going to be a hole at the surface to some distance, and then you can get data. So in this case, where's my little measure? Which one of these is a measure? Let me see if this will do it. Range. That says 3 miles. All right. So there's no surface data within 3 miles of this radar. So in other words, the radar doesn't know what's happening within the first 3 miles of it. But beyond that, then it has data. Okay, now the wind speeds looks like it picked up a little bit. Let's see, 70 to 80. There's 80 miles per hour. Well, it's back up to 80 again. All right. It's still going to keep going. So the core of the winds looks like I've now passed over the radar and out of that little dead zone. And now that they have, we can measure them better. So they're within this 1 square mile. And they're up close to as high as 80 miles per hour. There's an 85, this one little pixel there, and 83 in that one. This is 1/20th and 1/44th. So it's bounded between both of those, just south of Southeast 149th and East Indian Hills Road. So that's the square mile where these damaging winds are located. I'm hearing the wife in there huffing and puffing. Must have been some plants knocked over. Or some wet paws. I don't know. All right, let's see. There's some orange in there. So there's 70s to 80. All right. So that's our damaging wind that's left. Teeny tiny little region. So this little guy here is going through the village. This is that little bitty hill core. Let's see. Let's make sure there's no wind with that. There is not. Okay, that's good. All right, let's go take a look and see if it's grown or if it's shrunk. So the hill core is still there, up and down to 30,000 feet. So holding consistent, but it is a very small one. It's very tiny, very thin, very narrow. Yep. Just keep it on is what it's doing. Let me do some wind. Not a wind maker yet. At least not a big wind maker, let's put it that way. Okay. All right, now this one, here's the gust front. See that? So that means it has completely gusted out. It has cut off its inflow. Should be dying pretty dramatically. Do have a report here, blue, or this 2, which indicates a little bit of tree limb damage. It's not giving me my data point. Let's go over here. Maybe this will show it to me. This didn't have it. Well, I'll be. All right. Still got these little pockets of wind, though, up around 80? No, 75. 70, 75. Still same area. That's Indian Hills Road, I believe. Yeah, East Indian Hills Road, just east of 120th, is where the strongest winds are. They're peppered, though, all over this little area. From 120th to 108th to west side is 96th, and then down here to Franklin. And then there's little pockets of wind up here at 192nd and southeast 134th. Stella. So there's your winds here for right now. Now, if you notice this red, now this red equals winds blowing away from the radar. All right, so the radar's up here, so that means the winds are blowing in this direction, to the south and southeast, away from the radar. Green means winds blowing toward the radar, so they're blowing from the north in this direction. Now, the environment has green, right? So that means the environment has a south wind blowing toward the radar. So the environment is blowing winds out of the south. These storms have let their wind go. It's a gust front, and that's what this guy is. And that's blowing its wind out of the north. So it's like a mini cold front. So you have a north wind blowing into a south wind. Okay. I think pink was the only one in that deal. Yep. Okay. I don't see a lot of significant damage reports in the city, surprisingly. Let me look at this radar map. Maybe it's got something in there that didn't get reported. No, it is not. Shocking. We had a few reports on the north side of town for some power lines down around Memorial, but and some tree limbs, power poles. So basically, Edmond, east and west, just north of Memorial. So kind of in the east side of Edmond and the southwest side of Edmond probably had the best winds there. Oh no, her flowers got trashed. Oh no. Oh no. Oh goodness. Oh, trash. No, I know this. That's the bad part about a heavy storm this time of the year. Is one of our trees snapped. Oh, we don't have that many trees left. We need one of our trees. We don't got no trees. Jody. Oh, probably one of the little ones. Oh boy. Another trip to Home Depot. You only had some Charlie Brown Christmas trees after the ice storm. Had to dig up those other ones. That was a shame, man. I lost some, 10, 20-year-old trees. Oh, they were, yeah, just about that. Anyways, all right, let's see. Oh. All right, so pink, you are now getting the pink. So the pink is in pink, and that means you've got now 60 to 65 mile per hour winds. Let's see, these are all 60 to 70. So there's a 70. One little spot there of 75. Nope, that one's gone now. All right, now we're back over here, new data. Now coming in through pink, you got 70. All right, and then west of you is also about 70. There's a 75, looks like, as the peak speed. All All right, that is on Dobbs Road. Let's go over here. So it's Tecumseh and Austin, Big Jim, and just east of 168th Avenue. That's where those winds are, just north of East Rock Creek Road. And up here, we got Post Oak Road, Hickory Lane, Sky Ridge Road, and Franklin. So that's a little batch of wind there. And then on Pink on the north side, Old Barn Road north of 9, and on County Road 331 north of 9, up to East Road 120. There's your little batch of wind. So we got two. This is a 1 mile square here, and this is about a 4 mile square here. 4 square mile. 4 mile square. It's all the same, isn't it? Clicks. You want to talk about it in clicks? How many clicks is that? Okay, so down here, as far as the update on the warning, looks like this has been updated on the path and the time of arrival. So, of course, Pink already here, really. You've got Brooksville coming up next, Macomb, and then Tribby, St. Louis, and Asher by midnight. This is a new, looks like severe thunderstorm warning. Let's get the deal on this one. Till midnight, moving to the southeast of 26. Damage threat considerable. So the damage threat wording has dropped in its intensity. And it has wind gusts now of 70 miles per hour is the max. And let's see. Now this is going to cover the whole storm, not just the wind component we're tracking. But it says southeastern Oklahoma City, southeastern Norman, Tecumseh, Pink, Maud, Tribby, Etowah, Brooksville, Macomb, Lake Thunderbird, Bethel Acres, Little Axe, Trousdale. But remember, we are slowly weakening this thunderstorm. It's just taking its sweet time to weaken because it was big. It was a 65,000 footer. So, and it's gusted out long ago. And that is the sign where the storm weakens once they gust out. But it's just taking its sweet time. Doug says 49,000 power outages now. So no tornadoes. Casey, you are good. Right now we're on the strongest winds anyway aren't even going to go into Norman. Just so you know, they're over here. You guys are you're in a gentle breeze. You're in a summer breeze over here of 29 to 30. Where the real potential wind is over here east of you, southwest on Bethel Acres to Pink. There's a speed up there close to 80. One little spot, just north of Highway 9, just west, 2 miles west of 102. And then you have another little batch out here, close to 70. And that's all she wrote. Okay, so they have a new severe thunderstorm warning for our guy we looked at a minute ago. This one goes also till midnight, moving south at 23. Damage threat considerable. Radar indicated max hail size up to golf ball size. Winds up to 60 miles per hour. That includes Oklahoma City, southwestern Edmond, Moore, Midwest Del City. Midwest City, Del City, The Village, Nichols Hills, Valley Brook, Tinker, Lake Stanley Draper, Forest Park, and Lake Alum, Smith Village. So that is our second thunderstorm. Let's see here. Anything else coming? We've got some additional rain up here north and west from Hennessy to Lahoma, Cleo Springs. They're not doing anything substantial, though. And then nothing else looks like over the state. That's it. And this storm will not be as intense as this one because this environment that it's coming into is much more stabilized because of this passing storm. So it should be an elevated type storm and one with limited instability to work with. regarding surface instability, so it should never do much. I was surprised even able to get the hail core, but it does have an updraft, so let's see here. Okay, so there were some markers here. These little threes. This took a while for that report to show up. 3-inch tree limbs broken, power poles broken around Dell City. So I know many of you did say, obviously, power outages. And here on Midwest City, there's another little marker there. And just so you know where these are located, this one is on, let's see, okay, so Vicky Drive. So that's between Sunnydale, South Sunnydale, and 77. And that is on Southeast 29th Street. That's where those power lines are down. And then over here on South Basinger Street, it's just west of South Anderson Road and Southeast 32nd Street. So more power lines down there as well. Let's see here. All right, so as these winds continue to weaken, the threat for any magnitude, severe magnitude of severe storm damage drops considerably, and we're back to the standard, summertime, thunderstorm, little wind, brief heavy rainfall, and some lightning. Let's see, so right now, strongest winds, it's up around 60. It's good. It's doing what it's supposed to do, so that's fine by me. I gotta get to bed, man. Somebody's gotta work in the morning. Alright. I'm gonna look here on this guy. We'll check out our two zones. Okay, so that one that was around pink is long gone. The one on Bethel Acres, up around here, that's about 60 plus miles per hour. So there's 60, 65, 66. Okay, and then down here, south of Pink, there's 60, 65. That's about it. All right, I think we're done with this event. So let me do one more thing, and that's this guy here. Let's just take a look. Okay. Yeah, these are all low-level winds, just because from how the storm gusts out. So there's nothing left aloft to come down. So it's good. It means I'm calling it. It means things are both dead, dying. So, all right. So for the next half an hour to an hour, we'll still probably have this slow decay of these thunderstorms. They'll get weaker and weaker every passing minute. There's a little bit of tiny hail left in that one on the west side of Oklahoma City coming into downtown, but it's very tiny and it's weakening very, very slowly as well. It doesn't really have much wind with it at all. It's an elevated storm, and the surface-based storm down south and east of town, it continues to weaken because it gusted out. So the wind speeds now have come down to 60 miles per hour at most. So we're done with the 70s and 80s and 90s, so that's good. But we'll still get some thunderstorms out of that stuff, obviously, and then lightning, activity, and for about the next, like I said, about an hour probably or so, and they should die out. So just so you know, as we go into this time of the year, into July, the thunderstorms do get less and less frequent, but when they do occur, you can obviously get a big one. And when they do occur, they usually last through the very, very late afternoon to the mid to late evening. And once the sun goes down, it's just a timing. So it's usually you got about an hour for sure of leftover instability. And you have a lot of lightning. And then the really big, strong storms that spin up really well can take a little bit longer to wind down. So they can last up to around midnight in some cases. Like tonight will be one of those cases. So you can have that off and on, as we go through, July 4th plans, etc. If that's in the forecast, I have not looked that far out, and it wouldn't matter anyway, so it would be accurate. That's 10 days. But regardless, that can happen this time of the year. And then on occasion, we can get a line of storms come through. We call it MCS, so like a squall line. Those can happen sometimes too. But as far as our, daily and weekly severe weather threat, all that kind of stuff, that's usually not in the cards this time of the year. That most of that activity, which is generated by wind shear, etc., shifts north. And if you haven't noticed on your social media channels, most of this has been across the far northern states into Canada. They've had a few tornadoes up around the Manitoba, Canada region, but we can kick those kind out of here. Don't want those. Although tonight we came pretty close. If you joined me at the very beginning from my weather camera, we had a really nasty looking wall cloud right across the street from me. That thing was touching the ground, man. That was pretty low, and a big hook on radar. But luckily it wasn't a traumatic situation, but boy, it sure looked like it got close. All right, that's it for me. Thanks again for watching this evening. Sending me all your stars, your love, your likes, your shares. Joining the page that you're watching it from. Hit the subscribe button. And tell your friends and family about AT's Weather. Download my free weather app. It's called AT's Weather to Go. You can track all this stuff right in the palm of your hand, especially if you lose internet access and you just want to watch just your phone instead of watching live coverage like I'm doing, which of course you can do through all the platforms, from Rumble to YouTube to Facebook and to Twitter X. You can watch them all there. And as new social media platforms opens up live streaming, I'll do it there as well. TikTok is a little weird. Same thing for Instagram. They don't really make those friendly for live streaming. So I'll have to kind of look into that to see if I can't finagle something with that, but we'll see. But otherwise, if anything else opens up platform-wise that people want to use and utilize, then I'll spread the weather on those networks, those platforms as well. So that way we can get you covered no matter what you like to use. It's all the same. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks again for tuning in. You guys be good, be safe. Hopefully, for those of you folks without power, you'll get it turned on overnight or tomorrow rather quickly. I'm sure crews are already out working on it. And be safe out there and stay out of the flooded roadways. I know there's a flash flood warning across Oklahoma City, etc., for the rising waters. Obviously, that's a situation where your car can get stalled if you go through an intersection. If it's over, if it's into where you got your engine block, you're asking for a total vehicle. So it's up to you. I wouldn't drive through. I just go around or back up or stop. In those cases, and if it's sometimes the water's moving too fast and it's a couple of feet deep, it can actually float your vehicle and carry you downstream. So that's why we talk about that. And if it's 6 inches of fast moving water, it can actually take you downstream and carry you off into a creek or a river and with flash flooding. And so that's a drowning situation. So you don't want that. But that can happen. So again, for now, just some pockets of some wind on the radar every now and then. It'll get up to around 70, but most of the time it's at 60 or below. But the storm's not finished all the way yet. So Bethel Acres, Shawnee, Tecumseh, Brooksville, Macomb, Tribby, you still might get occasional gusts of wind until this whole thing wraps up. But some sporadic power outage it looks like. But the big, strong 80, 90 mile per winds looks like it's pretty much come to an end. So that's good. All right, you guys have a great rest of your night. Be safe. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Take care.